Gemini, welcome back. We're here to do your star sign for June 2023. Many of you are asking, is it going to be better than last month? Well, gee, I think anything has to be better than last month. It was pretty heavy. There were given reasons why such was happening, and we are going to get into this both psychically, astrologically, and to give you the tips via the transit. So the way this is going to be hosted is astrology, moonology, an overview, and tips for the transits of where they're going to be. Brief overview into your romance house, which is going to be for both singles and couples, and any tips I can tell you. Your career, business, and or education, if I see it both psychically or astrologically. Wealth, wellness, and then summing it up for your tips for the month and what you need to be most aware of. So without further ado, let's take a look at the transits quickly, and we'll mention the key areas, the 5 top areas that are happening this month. Now, we do have Saturn and Pisces moving retrograde as of the 17th of June. We also have Pluto re-entering Capricorn. Don't know how I feel about this, but it has to happen regardless. So get ready for that on the 11th of June. Neptune also is going to be joining Saturn in its retrograde in the same zodiac sign, Pisces, from the 30th of June. So many of us, depending on how sensitive you are to energy, you could have been picking that up last month. It's definitely going to start peaking as we do into the month. We'll get the shadow phase, and then we will be moving into the physical retrograde. Venus also will enter Leo, which it will retrograde next month. You will get the shadow phase of that this month. Those blasts from the past can be coming back, and any tips I feel I will now mention. So for you, Gemini, you're recovering from Mercury retrograde. It would have been very fatiguing. You could have been pulled in different directions. The eclipses also could have impacted your wellness zone. This might have been feeling that you had to do everything, loose ends, tying up emotions, feeling as though everything was on you, really running yourself down. Would have been a really great time, especially moving into the month. If you feel you need any checkups, go and get that done. Prioritize yourself, get into a structured routine. It is going to require you to be quite organized over the next 6 to 12 months. Saturn retrograding for you is linking to your career sector. It can be spiritually, you are feeling what is your purpose in any given situation. You also can be very career driven, and during both Saturn and Neptune retrograde, you can have some radical revelations. Neptune tends to bring, and we're going to look at that in a moment, and I'm going to give you tips towards each planet retrograde and tips associated to the 5 I've mentioned. Is with Neptune, it does kind of make you feel a little bit like a fool. You're like, oh gosh, I can't believe I didn't see that there, or am I going crazy? Is this even a dream anymore? So utilize it in a bold way. Also, try to not worry about the changes that are necessary. Move into those changes. And I know it feels hard, but there can be some huge breakthroughs you have and time to repair. But you can be going inwards to really tune into, is this resonating with you? What can you do to auto-correct? Now, 10th house can be purpose, career, but it also can be depending on the age bracket you are, where it's linking, especially with Saturn and Pisces. It could be to do with superiors, rules and regulations, how you structure it, how you're responsible, how, showing up to work on time, getting things done, getting them done on a schedule. Especially with Scorpio, that was in the South Node, you're actually going to find more success in structuring your routine. The South Node will wrap up its cycle next month, and you can have that really down packed where you'll have light bulb moments of how to get in good routines. But I'll give you the tips through this read. Now, Venus also for you is retrograding inside of your 3rd house of contracts, partnerships, conversations, thoughts, feelings, actions, words. And yes, big conversations can be coming. It is Venus regardless, so it will be really hitting in your vibration. And I do really see for your zodiac sign brand new chapters. Now, how you deal with these planets moving retrograde and making aspects is this. As it goes retrograde for Saturn, it's a time to go inwards and reflect the structures, the routines, the rules, the regulations, the burdens, Saturn also can link to bones and teeth, so caring for those areas. Also, it can be an internal thing, but it can be something that you're spiritually feeling is happening to you, going inwards. Can I handle this role? Especially because it links to your 10th house. Neptune, when it goes retrograde, I would say solutions can be right under your nose. Anytime Neptune has gone retrograde, I felt so bloody silly. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't see that. And it was maybe working on a project in my career, and Neptune would go retrograde, and I would really look at the burden, and I would go, okay, is this working? Is this system working? Is this innovation working? So again, it does link to your career sector. That's the reason I've mentioned it. So sometimes we can have radical revelations if we don't like something. Sometimes it can be, well, was I being delusional? Was I being overzealous and believing that this was going to work? And so what it can do is help us with innovation, give us radical ways to deal with our dreams. Saturn and Neptune walking side by side. You can be believing something 1 minute, and then as Neptune goes retrograde, you can go, hang on a minute, I can try this and this will work. So just be open to how it occurs for you at a personal level. It doesn't have to be the same as me. I would say also avoid pacifiers, bringing it down back to reality. And it is going to be, instead of, wow, we're going to have great breakthroughs. You really do have major transitions coming up in your career sector, and they are going to be, in the long run, very, very positive and very lucrative. But Jupiter can sprinkle fairy dust on us, which is currently sitting in the house of Taurus, which is your dream state, your 12th house. That can be anything to counseling, coaching, spiritual community, advertising, hundreds and hundreds of different industries. How you deal with it in new beginnings, it's going to get bigger. But also stress levels. Is the stress worth the buck? That can be something that you do go through. So when Venus also moves into Leo, what you do need to be aware of is, if you're ushering people into your life and they're brand new, which we'll go into in your love zone in a moment, I would say be fluid, because retrogrades can bring blasts from the past back. So if you do meet Mr. Bombastic, the other thing you can find is Mr. Bombastic could have a blast from the past coming back. So does it mean don't invest out a connection? Not at all. It means be fluid. Don't go into it all in. Go into it gradually. Get to know that person. Move into the experimentation and self-discovery and enjoying the very moment, and look at the good and the bad and the ugly. What are the positives? What are the negatives? And what do I now feel? And use it that way. So it's not to say, hey, by the way, going into a connection is going to be doom and gloom. Not at all. But you are going to, in your own personal energy, going to review your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your confidence, your routine, your belief systems in love, as well as your romance house. And that moon that is coming up is going to rattle your cages a little bit. So into the moon. What I didn't mention is Capricorn. Go back. Pluto moving into Capricorn. It does link to your 8th house. Now, this can be intimate wounds. This can be trauma that you haven't let go of. This can be also changes with your partnerships, your contracts, tax, debt, legacies, inheritances. Something that's unfinished is coming up again. Now, it doesn't have to be something bad. It would be an old circumstance. I don't feel it would be a new circumstance of an inheritance and a passing. But spiritually, it could be some new way that you didn't look at could come back, and you go, wow, okay. And it can link to other people's money. But definitely intimate wounds, feelings, wanting to have people that you can depend on. You can be really reflecting upon those areas and restructuring. On to the moonology of what I see this month, and then we will get straight into the romance for singles and couples, which I have a lot to tell you guys there. Now, number one, full moon is occurring in the house of Sagittarius on the 4th of June, 2023. At a collective level, it can be cultural beliefs, religion, media, trade, travel, holidays. It can be the boating industry. It can be aeroplanes. It can be spiritual gurus, higher education, spirituality. Now, those domains for you at a collective level will still apply. But also being a full moon, it's going to be heightened energy. So this is probably a risky zone, I would say, for the world. It's a bit of a risky purgatory effect. And it could be something radical that happens. It could be a spiritual guru that passes. It could be somebody who is a celebrity that passes, airplanes, something. It's a full moon. For you, this links to your 7th house. I had my headphones on and they were beeping at me. They're going flat, so I'm just turning them off. Apologies. For your 7th house. Now, how can this play out? One, it'll be emotional. So you could have very huge nostalgic feelings. I would say during full moons, always know that everyone's triggered. Point blank zero. So the whole world will be. Taking a moment to reflect upon your belief systems, taking a moment to reflect upon the past. You could be very nostalgic. You could literally feel like there's no bread left for you. It will pass. Situations and relationships can come to a head. Situations in a contract can come to a head. Things at home to do with siblings can come to a head. You could pay a large debt off relating to a bill at home, or, get things done. Definitely cleaning, especially because it's home and it's love. But there also could be a breakthrough happening in your love zone, but it is a new chapter, so be open to that. Then we have the new moon in Gemini on the 18th of June, 2023. That's you. So definitely, I always see the axis of the 1st and the 7th house in astrology, because we technically have 12 houses in our chart. And in a minute, I'll get into the psychic energy of your romance house and use the signature of astrology as well, but I'll psychically tune in. 1st and 7th house is you versus other people. I do see with this new moon, how you look is going to change. I always call it the Emperor's New Clothes. Your thoughts, your feelings, your attitudes, how people see you. I'm almost hearing the Rita Ora song, R.I.P. Go and listen to the lyrics. It could have some subliminal for you. There's going to be a new chapter here for you. You versus other people. You versus your contracts. Something is shifting. You're ready to take the bull by the horns, and it's going to happen. Now, things either happen to us or they happen for us. Regardless, there's a new chapter. Let's look at your love zone and prepare you for the month. What to know, all your must-knows for those of you singles and couples, and anything I do psychically see. Now, I would say also, because we do have Venus moving retrograde, you're going to be very busy, okay? Busy, busy, busy. Thinking, talking, connecting. Mercury retrograde moved through and, kicked up a storm. Definitely linking to both Jupiter. So you might have felt like a headless chook. I don't know. That's very Australian to be saying, but you could have felt like a headless chook. Spiritually, I do directly feel you actually can have your dreams come true this month. Now, is there a possibility for those of you that are single, thinking about an individual, that you can feel very nostalgic, very let down, very, is this ever going to get better? For a pocket group of you, that is possible. But this is going to be a new chapter. So if you do have those vibrations, just know the moon is directly affecting your vibe. Okay, don't let the vibe ruin the party. Go through it, be in awareness of it, and new chapters coming. Those of you in relationships, if they're very toxic and you've known for a very, 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 very long time, it does mean there is an opportunity between now and the next few months to really correct that, to get things back on track on your side and their side, and to assess where this is going. For some of you, there can be tension points coming to a head this month, and I would be very careful in the first 2 weeks. I'd also be in awareness that you can feel, what do I do? What can I do? Never do another person's job, okay? Sometimes we get into this psychoanalysis of connections, and it's almost like instead of us having a team, we have an I. And there's no I in team, right? So you can't do other people's work for them. You can state what you like, what you dislike, and then we can get out of our way and let them have their own process. But no, we either A, can, or B, can't. It's okay. Okay, it's okay, Jim. Take the pressure off yourself. Your value systems are going to come up. You're going to be very spiritual. You're going to be connected to other cultures. You're going to be looking at things in different ways. You want to experience life, flavor, spice, live that, be that. When you have purpose, everything flows. It's like an energy transaction. And I do think you have large opportunities here for blast for the past, for getting connections back on track and really shifting beyond, how would I say it? It feels it's going to be very dynamic, very attractive. You're going to be almost like the hero of the story or the heroine. And I do see a friend could find you to be quite passionate. Just be careful, do we say mix business with pleasure? Um, if you're in a romantic relationship and you work great as a team and you can leave your vibe, and put your work hat on, 100% you can. But if that can't be, don't complicate things. But there is a potential that even romantic interests can be found in the most unique places. I definitely see some changes surrounding home and family, and I definitely see you being more focused and driven. But you are going to take on new roles in this connection, but definitely something is changing. Recovery first 2 weeks, I feel breakthroughs, revelations, bold conversations, and romance set for your zodiac sign. Your career is really big, and I would say, look, this is going to take center stage for a little bit. It doesn't mean to say it's the only thing happening in your life. Not at all, Gem. But you definitely do have some opportunities here. If you did feel over the last few months that your career wasn't going in the direction you wanted to, or maybe you were just on that autopilot, this is the month where you're going to be re-looking back at that. You could really be reviewing all of your contracts at this point in time, your thoughts, your attitudes, your negotiation skills. I wouldn't necessarily say Gemini is a non-confident energy, but you are an empath energy and you do tend to empathize with people. You also can be similar to Virgo, where you can articulate the rationale in a circumstance, but you also may find you need to be quite direct. Direct doesn't have to be that you're nasty. You just know what you want and you're going for it. You definitely also could want to play a lot more. Some of that could be going on the back burner just for a little bit as Pluto ingresses back into Capricorn, and there could be some delays. I definitely see growth, but I do feel you're going to have to pause and you're going to have to go back to, it's a little bit like if you're running a business. You're like, oh, the business is set up. And then we have retrogrades and then it's like, oh, hang on a minute. Is it working correctly? Business audits are very common. Okay. You may have been doing that last month for those of you running a business. The same principle applies to your career. Okay, what can I directly depend on? Are those resources there? Is the income there? Is it sustainable? Is there something I need to adjust? And I think a lot of us were asked to do that last month. And if we haven't dealt with them, we haven't started making those transitions, this really is going to come up in the mix. If you were directly looking at wanting to study, wanting to get into traveling, there's something pausing for a minute because something's been missed. I would say definitely read fine print, especially if you're going into contracts at the moment. Understand what you're getting into, understand what the requirements are. If you are running a business, advertising can bode quite well. But I would definitely say really looking at your systems, your routines in your business, where, what the trajectory is and how things are going to be shifting, because I do feel there is a restructuring going on. The other thing I will say is, a lot of what you're working on behind the scenes in your personal lives and your career at this point is going to take a lot more leadership, but you may require to, after the eclipses, is to get into a massive organization system. And that's really something that is going to help you move forward so you can secure those situations. And I do feel there's going to be cramming in the first 2 weeks for you to complete tasks and to get back on track. Now, as to your wealth sector, last month may have kept you both very busy, but definitely there's something in the mix where you're thinking in your life of the bigger picture. I definitely do feel you have a lot of creative ideas. I would definitely be very, very careful with second guessing yourself. I wouldn't say, risk it all and put yourself in risky environments. Not at all, especially because Spiritually, you can have a lot of revelations. I would definitely suggest that you write those down. You could really be concerned about wealth at this point because you do have Jupiter transiting your 12th house. But I also feel Jupiter also is going to be giving you opportunities, but your mind is your oyster, and your mind can be your biggest demon as well with this transit. So Jupiter isn't, it's not malefic, but if we are having a bad experience, it can be. It's almost like I've been carrying this for so long and trying to deal with this situation and it hasn't got any better. So you can have the worry wart energy, but always say to yourself, is worrying solving anything? Have I in this thought process actually found a solution? No, okay, well, tune out of it. Nothing I can do until a solution comes to me or until a grand idea comes. I just have to let go and get out of your head and be productive, get grounded, and do the things that bring you pleasure. I'd always say as well, journal these ideas down, revisit some of these circumstances. You may have an unexpected expense. You may have some rags to riches situation going on. I do feel for some of you, you may need to replace white goods. And really what you're wanting to purchase are things that are really resonating with you. Some of you also are going to be looking at things and going, I don't really resonate with this anymore. I need to get rid of it. I'm not really using it. It could far work better if I had some money in the bank. And so there could be some things that you are shifting around that you physically don't need anymore. I also feel for those of you in committed romantic relationships, there could be a change happening on your partner's side or within your career sector with their wealth and, what is able to be offered to you. There can be some fringe benefits, so to speak. If it is coming up with your partnership where there is something at a financial level, it can be that what's hidden comes to light. But this transition, it's not going to be permanent. Like, how do I explain it? It's not that it's not permanent. The delay isn't going to be forever. Okay, so it is going to wrap up. It's just a tedious situation. Wellness. Burnout is the biggest thing with your zodiac sign, I would say. And I think for most zodiac signs, point blank, Sarah, especially after last month and what we're moving into. Creative ideas, having time for wellness, having time for play, but also having time for responsibility. And I think you're really trying to re-navigate that. I would say be very careful with your zodiac sign for pacifiers. Your stress levels can cause issues. I don't know why I'm getting eyes. I'm psychically tuning into your eyes. You could need your eyes tested. Again, I'm not a doctor. Always use your own intuition of what links and resonates with you. This can be if you're having like headaches and your eyes are hurting, go and get it checked, but increase your fluid. I also feel find healthy ways to deal with your stress. Psychic attacks are possible. Those of you more in the spiritual realm, and how that can come through is all of a sudden really embodying a very negative vibration, or lots of fights happening in home. Really good time to clear your home, which would be this month. If you're tuning into a negative thought pattern, physically accidentally manifesting it. So you've got to be a very conscious being moving through this month and, using crystals, using things to protect yourself. So I would use amethyst only when your energy is clear. Tourmaline to protect your psychic energy, fair-based frequency, and detoxes. You can use citrine because it's also going to give you courage. As we do move into the Venus energy, you could be clearing a lot of your heart chakra, which is confidence, love, empathy. And again, I would say really looking after your wellness, okay? Especially coming off the back of Mercury retrograde, I would say your risky points will be getting run down, getting stressed, not able to deal with things, looking at things from an emotional point of view. And it's almost like we need to know with our body, like an engine, what our limit is. And if we're getting tired, what do we need to do? Okay, it's time to get grounded. It's time to go and have a nap. Not always is that possible, but getting the PDF and then when you get home, being very practical about what you have to do in your day-to-day routine. I would also say anything you need to investigate that was lingering last month, get it done. Yeah, I definitely feel you could do some higher heart chakra meditation. Your manifestation of wealth is here. And I think if you have the courage to deal with it, you really have some large breakthroughs. I do feel if you're moving into any fitness, exercise, or group activity, it can be very beneficial. But I definitely would be careful with articulating, taking things personal, and getting sharp and blunt. Know your limit, know how you're feeling, do some journaling. Self awareness is fantastic this month. Now, the key points you would need to know is knowing basically that there is going to be personal changes. First and seventh house changes are pretty radical. You could have a lot of revelations this month to do with what your side is in your contracts or your love zone. And what the other person's side is. You could take things personal this month. You will be more heart centered. You will be more giving, but your time is an energy transaction. Remember, use it effectively. Look at the last 3 years. I'd say, yeah, 4 years for you. You've had a lot of changes. But even just the last 2 years, what it has taught you is time management. And, say a ship's going down. We can't save everyone if we're not good, right? So if you're good, everything else is good. Everything else can be maintained, but know your limit. I will check in with you next month. Be open to the tips I've given you. Save this video so you can refer back to it depending on the conflict, the drama, or the benefits that are coming through. Because definitely, if you put your best foot forward this month, you're going to have some lady luck coming. Love and light. I will see you next month, hopefully. Otherwise, if you do want a personal reading, you can go to the info box directly below wherever you are listening to this. Take care, beautifuls. I wish you the very best.